we're rolling. Alrighty. Well, Packy, this is our presentation. Obviously, I'm Graham.
I'm Sterling.
We have collegiate athletics, and we are the Buccaneers. So, we are starting it off. Chapter summary. It's a really long chapter about collegiate athletics, but there were three aspects of collegiate athletics that have changed over the years. The business, the administrative, and the international aspects. The business side, it has grown immensely over the course of the years. Coaches and administrators at all levels, they become more involved in budgeting, finding revenue sources, controlling expense items, and participating in fund development activities. As for the administrative aspect, we've seen changes. Recruiting and academics have been two things that we've talked about, in history of sports also. As more rules and regulations came about, paperwork was a lot more prevalent today than what it used to be in the past. And in international aspect, it's grown immensely too. We've seen a lot bigger, followings overseas, like the text explains, than what we ever have. They said that from the text, you're more likely to see a game on a Saturday as you walk into a bar that you wouldn't expect to be there. And the talent is being, recruited and things like that now from overseas now into America. So it's definitely something else that we've seen. Also with that, the history, kind of looking more into that, we've talked about it before. Harvard and Yale, the first crew race, August 3rd, 1852. And that was the first time that we saw sponsorship because the Boston Concord and Montreal Railroad Company, they held the event in New Hampshire so that everyone would take the railroad system to this event, and they would basically, travel and see this railroad way, and they were basically the first sponsorship for the company, used for competition to promote the company's business. Also, the next sport to hold intercollegiate competition was baseball between Amherst and Williams in 1859. And then the first intercollegiate football game was Rutgers and Princeton in 1869. It was more like soccer. We've talked about it before. They used their feet and were dribbling more than even a football game. There were no coaches or ADs. Students ran the entire thing. And the development of the Intercollegiate Football Association was something crucial to basically kind of getting more of a structured balance into these intercollegiate sporting events. In 1881, Princeton became the first college to create a faculty athletics committee. They wanted to make football safer and ban the game, but obviously no one really wanted to do that because it was a fan favorite and it became one of the most popular events early on by Ivy League schools. In the early 1900s, football was all over college campuses, but injuries and death increased. So they also created the Intercollegiate Athletic Association of the United States later, which became the NCAA. Now with that, kind of talking about the structure and the format, that's where you really get into the NCAA. What you have it down is the big boss for college athletics. Hang on, I'm just checking so we... Oh yeah, we got it. Sterling's all over it. Yep. We have that. They're the big boss for college athletics in the United States. The National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics, the NAIA, founded in 1940. That was more small colleges, universities, and they had close to 300 members and institutions. And then you have the NJCAA, or the National Junior College Athletic Association, founded in 1937, promote and supervise national program of junior college sports and activities. Currently, they have approximately 525 member institutions. So you can see this is the big structure and the big format for collegiate athletics would be the NCAA and the structure system of conferences and divisions. With that being said, we talked about division. Division 1, 335 members. Division 2, 288 members. Division 3, 432 active schools. And the basic purpose for the NCAA, as the text explains and as we know, they want to maintain intercollegiate athletics as an integral part of the student body and keeping the line between intercollegiate athletics and professional sports. As you know, that's something that's really, really huge, is trying to keep that line between the two, and that's something that the NCAA has tried to do for a very long time. With that being said, let's skip ahead one more here. We can go with the conferences. You must have member conferences, they must have a minimum of 6 institutions. Sterling can tell you all the way about that. He was on top of these earlier on, so I'll let him take it from here.
Okay, we're going to talk about conference realignment, and that is one of the common issues. To start off with the definition, it's a school wanting to join a conference and change its affiliation, and usually there are 4 reasons why a school would choose to do that. One of them being they want exposure from their TV contracts, then the potential revenue that corporate sponsors can give you. Then it's a difficulty scheduling certain schools. So if you change your conference, then it makes it easier for everyone. And then some conferences aren't able to hold a football championship game. So that's another reason why you would realign your conference. With career opportunities, decades ago there was a traditional path for a career in collegiate athletics. Usually the player would later become a coach, and then to keep them aligned with the school, they would turn them into an administrator. And that over the years, that has changed drastically. Colleges began looking towards corporate CEOs because, as you know, the NCAA has become a multi-billion-dollar company. So today, athletic administrators must be able to understand the financial and legal complexities of the business.
It's all about the money with them.
Yeah. Coaches and athletic directors. That differs between divisions. As you know, Division One, you have a bigger budget, sort of north of 10 million. Division Two is a little bit smaller, and Division Three, they kind of get the shaft, if you say, because it's a lot of things that aren't particularly going their way. The coaches, usually they get part-time jobs. If a coach is full-time, then you know he's coaching more than one team. And there are no sports scholarships for Division III. And jumping up to Division I, the budget, as I said before, is north of 10 million. And coaches are full-time because recruiting, they're constantly traveling across the country because everyone wants their next blue-chip athlete. So, and then they have a lot of athletic scholarships to help other kids. And then you move on to assistant or associate director responsibilities. A lot of people report to the athletic director. The athletic director is kind of the main piece to the college and keeps it flowing. And we're going to talk about student athlete services. And the definition for that, it addresses academic concerns and the welfare of the student athlete. So that would be the person that oversees tutoring and making sure you get your classes together. There are other important positions to collegiate athletic department, and it's a senior women's administrator and a faculty athletics representative, to name a few. The NCAA has many opportunities, and the athletic conference size has increased over the years by a lot. Conference administrators hired to oversee the growth areas, and jobs have increased. So as a student, you must separate yourself. And here's a couple ways to separate yourself from the rest. You have to excel in the classroom. You also have to volunteer to help out around campus, mainly the athletic department. And then you have to network yourself by building a resume and also participating in a lot of internships to gain that experience that you need. A modern challenge today would be Title IX, also known as gender equity. And it talks about that Title IX is no greater issue has affected collegiate athletic departments over the past years. And basically what Title IX is, it prohibits sex discrimination in any educational activity. And due to the passage of the 1988 Civil Rights Act, in 1991, the NCAA released the results of the Gender Equity Survey. And the survey was 70% male and 30% of female student athletes receive scholarships. So a part of gender equity is to get that down to 50-50. And another example of that is with OU. We have a women's soccer team, but we don't have a men's soccer team. So that's just a small example of that. And hiring practices for minorities and women. An example is the Black Coaches and Administrators Association's Minority Report Card. And that's just a way to show that each race and gender is getting an equal chance to get a job. And then another way is, I think it's in the NBA, where you have to hire or you have to interview one coach from each race just to keep it fair, which is a good strategy. Another concern is academic reform. In the early 90s, Proposition 48 was in place, and Proposition 48 was basically you needed, hold on one second. Oh, okay. Proposition 48, you needed a 2.0 GPA and a 700 ACT score and 11 core credit classes in high school to be eligible to play college football. And then after a few years later, in 1996 and 97, Proposition 16 was set in place, and that was a minimum of 13 core classes. And if a student had a 2.0 GPA, you must have at least a 1010 on your SAT, but if you had a 2.5, you can drop it down to an 850. And then the AGA is Agents, Gambling, and Amateurism. And the most recent sanction that we know about is when the NCAA punished Reggie Bush for getting involved with agents too early and jeopardizing his amateurism or amateur status. And through the AGA, the NCAA is working to prevent all these unacceptable practices that is kind of having a negative effect on the game.
And with that being said, this is also another way, we were talking about it, where it's kind of to keep that line between the professional game and the collegiate game. We saw it with Reggie Bush about the agents and everything else. They're trying to limit that, because it's another big controversy going on that's been a problem is, should collegiate athletes get paid? So, this is something else that was kind of, we were discussing that, they're trying to keep that line from the professional game to the collegiate game, so. Okay,
and another thing to point out was that in 2008, they conducted a survey, and 30% of males and 77% of female athletes were actually betting on the games that they were playing in. So that was another thing to keep in mind. And another thing is new technologies. It's kind of transforming the way this new recruitment has been going on the past few years. Coaches are allowed to text players, and it kind of takes away from like how special recruiting can be, and then it also allows coaches to see how a player conducts himself on social media, and I think that's a good way to know who you are and how you represent yourself and others. And we have our career implications. Mine is to someday be athletic director of a big-time college program, and this project has given me a lot of information to want to further my career and show like what I need to do in order to put myself in the best position to be successful. And let Graham take over.
And for mine, my future plans, sports broadcasting, analyst or something for some kind of intercollegiate athletics, program or sport. This information, I said that this interaction with my career path, because dealing with athletic programs every day, if I'm going to be doing that, I'll know how to interact with them. I'll know how to interact with the NCAA. I can fit into this process and have the understanding of collegiate athletics and how it's broken down, structured, and how it can be successful so that I can be successful. This project really helped me understand all the bases, for breaking down divisions, conferences, realignment, money, and all these other things that went into it from the early on all the way up until now. And it's really helped me kind of understand everything, not just about the specific sports and how the sports are played, but what's behind the sports and how they're so successful. So I know Sterling and myself, we both really enjoyed, this, and I think we both can say we probably had the best of the chapters in collegiate athletics.
Oh, definitely.
So, all right, Packy, we'll see you later.
Have a good one.